Hello, this is Bad Vibes. Today's video is on Starbucks, which I haven't done a video on. Joining me on today's video is Lucid Lupus. He will be reading stories 4 and 5. He's a newer channel, so if you like his narrations, please drop a sub to him. His link will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Back in September, I just moved to a new city and started a new job. I was trying to make new friends, so I downloaded the app Bumble BFF. Fast forward to the end of the month. I set up a few coffee meetups with potential friends. I left work on time and walked to the Starbucks by my office. I was there early, so I decided to order a coffee and waited in line. I finally sat down by a window, minding my own business, and out of nowhere, a painfully thin lady bum comes stumbling into the Starbucks. She looks terrifying, high out of her mind, long matted hair, needle marks on her arms, smelly, a bloody mess. She basically looks like a zombie from hell. Anyway, she starts walking towards me, screaming in gibberish, and then she tries to punch me in the face. Luckily, the man sitting next to me blocks her punch, and the baristas come over from behind the counter and throw her out of the store. Right after that, my new potential friend arrives, which makes the meeting very awkward, to say the least. Zombie bum lady, let's not meet again. I decided to use a Starbucks gift card I got for Christmas this morning before class. I live in a college town, and I wanted to go to the Starbucks closest to the campus so I wasn't late to class. This one doesn't have a drive-thru though, so I had to walk in. When I walk up to the front door, a man and woman were sitting at the outdoor table, and they had both made eye contact with me. I remember thinking it was kind of odd because they looked me up and down. Plus it was like 30 degrees out there, and there were open chairs inside. Come to think of it, they didn't have drinks or anything. I walk inside and order my drink like normal, but I could feel them staring at me through the front window. Once I got my drink, I started to walk out to my car, passing the two people. I heard them both stand up and start walking behind me without saying a word. I got scared at this point and put my car keys between my knuckles just in case I needed to protect myself. I sped up and got into my car as fast as I could and locked all the doors. Not even 2 seconds later, the woman knocked aggressively on my driver's side window, essentially making me damn near piss myself. The man was right next to her with a straight face, hands in pockets, looking through the windows of my car as if he was searching for something he wanted. I cracked the window a centimeter so she couldn't fit her hand in or anything, and asked her if she needed something. She told me to roll down to my window more. I said it was really cold, so I'm going to keep it up. She then asked me if I could give her some money, and it seemed like she was insisting, not so much asking. I just stumbled over my words and told her that I paid with a gift card, and that I was a poor college kid who didn't have much cash, which was true, but it sounded like an excuse. The man started to look confused and angry at me, and then yelled at me to get out of the car. That's when I just noped the fuck out, and drove as fast as I could. I'm glad I got out of there, but they scared the crap out of me. I probably shouldn't even talk to them at all. So to the people that tried to rob me at Starbucks, let's not meet again. So a bit of a backstory. I'm 18 female from the UK. This happened in February 2019. I was 17 at the time. I just got set up on a semi-blind date. We had seen photos of each other by a mutual friend, and this guy, we would call him Cameron. He was 19. Cameron seemed like your average guy, maybe a little too into video games and anime and stuff, but overall nothing that my friend told me about him seemed off in any way. Our mutual friend gave us each other's phone numbers, and we texted for a night and decided to meet up at Starbucks the next day, since we were both free. I never like to meet new people this soon, but I figured since Cameron knew my friend, it couldn't possibly go wrong. How mistaken I was. I arrived slightly early, ordered my coffee since I never like guys to feel like they have to buy it for me, and I parked up in a seat facing away from the door and pulled out my book. I'm maybe there for about 15 minutes chilling out, and I get a text saying he's here. So I'm like, great, I'm at this table. I feel a presence over my shoulder and I turn my head slightly in acknowledgement. Before I even get a chance to squeak out a hello, his lips latch onto my neck and he starts sucking on my neck. Now, I don't like people touching my neck at the best of times. I'm very ticklish and get super uncomfortable by people touching my neck. A few times when I've had massages or hair treatments, I had to hold in my discomfort. This dude latches on my neck like a leech. He smells horrendous, kind of like dust personified. I freak out and elbow him in the chest to get him the hell off of me. He lets go and looks at me with a weird expression on his face and laughs in deadpan, really creepy, and I start to become even more alarmed. I asked him what the hell he was trying to do and he says, I thought it was cute. Cute in what world? I try to have a conversation. I feel like first impressions don't mean anything. Let's try to give him a chance, but he's just creepily staring at my chest. He's like, wow, I didn't know Asians had boobs like those. I better not let you go. That's a direct quote. I can't make this shit up. I'm more distinctly uncomfortable, but I just don't want to run away. But he's giving me these weird vibes. So I go into the ladies' room and wait for someone else to come in. I ask her to help me get out undetected. I don't want this man following me home or some shit. She of course agrees and lends me her hat and scarf. It's February in the UK after all. We come out of the bathroom together and she manages to help sneak me out the back door of Starbucks without him noticing me. He asked my friend where I went off to, but I told my friend never to mention me again. I was too terrified. I know I probably didn't behave well and should have told him I was leaving, but I was just honestly scared.
One time, I was at the mall to play Magic the Gathering. I was 15 years old at the time and I had just finished up around 9:30 p.m. I called my mom and she was on her way to come pick me up. I live 30 minutes away, so I had some time to kill. I lived in a relatively small town, so everything closed at 9 o'clock. I was waiting outside of Starbucks and there was an old lady with a dog sitting at a table smoking. I walked up to her and asked her if I could pet her dog. She said yes, she loves people, so I reach in to pet the dog. The dog starts barking at me, which is unusual because animals usually love me. She then proceeds to tightly grasp my hand and put it in front of the dog's face and say that I'm nice to the dog. She then tells me it is good to pet the dog. I reach slowly to pet the dog, and the dog then bites my hand. She yells at the dog and asks me if I would like to hit her cigarette. She tells me her name and I tell her mine. She says, "Oh, that's my son's name," and then points to the 20-something buff Hawaiian dude sitting at the next table over. He was silent the entire time, up until that moment, so that freaked me out. He still said nothing afterward and just kind of stared me down. At this point, I was thinking of an exit strategy. She then asks me if she knows where to score some weed. Then she tells me I could be a model, and she knows a casting agent. Then, another man walks up to her and they all start whispering to each other. Then, I got a text from my mom. Also, my headphones were in, so any text messages I receive will play in my headphones. She's on the other side of the mall. They are distracted at the moment talking to each other. So I proceed to book it to the other side. I was speed walking and noticed the two men following me. I then run as fast as I can into my mom's car. I get in and I see the two men walking towards the car. My mom was on the phone and starts driving away. 10 minutes later, when she is off the phone, I tell her what happened, and she calls the police. They asked us our address, and they said they will send people over to get my statement. They never sent anyone over. With that being said, whoever you people were trying to do something awful to me, let's not meet again. So about a year ago, I was with my mom at a Starbucks where we were meeting a real estate agent to find an apartment in the area. We got there about 10 minutes early and just kind of sat and talked while we waited for him to arrive. We were next to the window that had a view of the parking lot closest to the front, and I noticed a white van pull up, and a lone guy in it made eye contact with me and wouldn't look away. I then looked away and continued like nothing was wrong. I truly assumed he was the agent, and we still had a few minutes until the actual time we were scheduled to meet. As a 5'4", 110-pound female, I'm always really wary of people who are staring me the fuck down, but I just try to ignore it. A few minutes later, a completely different guy comes in wearing a suit and introduces himself to us. I look back outside, now a little put off, and the van is still there, but the guy is nowhere to be found. I decided to go to the bathroom before we started touring. And then when I came out, he's sitting alone at a table, arms crossed, just staring and smiling at me. He would not look away the entire time I walked from the bathroom back to my table, and then outside and into my car. The whole time I would glance back, and he would just be sitting there, staring at me with this creepy, half smile on his face. I usually don't get super bothered by being staring at, but something in me was like, I gotta get the hell out of here and never come back. The entire tour was useless to me. I know there was no way in hell I was living in that area where I assumed the next guy existed in. We ended up pretty far from there, but every time I drive near it, I feel so sick to my stomach.
About a month ago, I took an Uber to Starbucks to wait for my boyfriend, since he couldn't pick me up at home for other reasons. I was sitting in Starbucks, sitting at a table, waiting for my drink. I have a strong resting bitch face, especially when I'm in public alone. I'm only 5 foot tall, 100 pounds, so I'm teeny. I try to have it as strong as possible to keep the creeps away. This day, it didn't work unfortunately. My boyfriend was at MEPS for the Navy, so I was having our friend pick me up. I'm sitting there waiting, and this creepy guy comes out of nowhere and introduced himself. I immediately tense up as he sat down across the table from me. He tells me he didn't want to be weird because he kept looking at me, so he decided to come talk to me and said I seemed cool. He proceeds to ask me if I'm in school because I had a backpack on. I tell him no. He asks me if I work, and I say not at the moment. I try to be as short with him as possible while giving everybody the help look. He asked me if I'm local and if I drive, and I simply responded, Uber. He asked me if I have a boyfriend, and I said yes, I'm actually engaged, and my fiance's in the Navy. He looks down at my left hand, which thankfully I have a promise ring on. He tells me that he has military friends, and I don't respond. I never made eye contact with him, but made mental notes of everything about him. He was average height and weight, with narrow jaw and horrible brown teeth. He tells me he's a writer that's working on a book. He also offers me a ride, which I respond to him saying no thank you, as I have someone coming to get me. He finally ends up leaving me alone after playing 21 questions. I get my drink and go outside, where I didn't think he could see me. I'm texting my friend, trying to have one call me. Next thing I know, he comes up again and sits across the table. He offers me a job typing for him and says he pays $20 an hour in cash. I decline, but he keeps on going on about how he can meet up so he can pay me and give me rides whenever I needed. He also tells me he's a photographer and a web designer. I tell him that I can't accept because my fiance would not be okay with it, and he's at work, so I can't talk to him about it yet. He offers to leave his number so my fiance can call him himself, and I told him he would not be okay with it. He asks if he's strict, and I say no, he's protective. He then says I can give him my number, and I say my fiance would definitely not be okay with that. He tells me that he's not trying to break up my relationship, but he's just trying to help me out, and tells me how he has married couple friends. He finally leaves me alone, after repeatedly saying he wasn't trying to be weird. I quickly leave and go somewhere else to hide in case he follows me. I never went back to that Starbucks again. I thought that that would be the only time I would have to deal with this creepy ass, but I was wrong. He may not seem too creepy to some, but being there, he had a very creepy vibe to him. So this last Friday, I went to Target to wait for my boyfriend. The Target is in the same shopping center as the Starbucks, but I hadn't seen him, so I felt safe. I got bored, so I decided to sit outside. That was my mistake. I should have stayed inside. I'm sitting on a bench in front of the store, and I see someone out of the corner of my eye walking in front of me from my left side. I glance up and realize it's him. I immediately panic and text my friend so he can call me. I wanted to go back into the store, but he went in that direction. He stopped by the doors and just stood there for a good 5 or more minutes, looking around before going in. I tell my friend to hurry and call me, but he's in the middle of something and says he'll call me in 2 minutes. As I'm waiting, I see him coming back towards me. He spent like 2 minutes in the store. He walks past me, then comes back and comes up to me. I get very nervous and scared. He makes up some excuse to talk to me. He says hello and I say hi, with as much attitude as I can give him without looking up from my phone. He asked me if he could ask me something, so with attitude I say, "What?" He quickly responds with, "I'm new here and I'm looking for..." "Never mind, sorry," and walks away. Thankfully, at this point, my friend calls me and we're on the phone for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and the dude disappeared completely. I mentioned to my friend that if the dude is around when my boyfriend gets to me, he would handle it. My boyfriend just got into the Navy and wouldn't put hands on the creep, but he's taller and very muscular, so he would scare the shit out of him. My friend ends up having to go, and we hang up. Literally, in the same second, the creep walks by again. He was waiting out of sight where he could hear me. It was 3:26 p.m., and my boyfriend got off of work at 3:30. So I texted him and told him that the creep was around me, and told him that I was going to call him at 3:30 and to please answer. He hadn't seen my messages but answered, so I told him what happened and had him stay on the phone with me until he got me, because I was really scared. The creepy guy walks back out of the store again after only 2 minutes inside. He goes and stands out of sight again. I loudly say "babe" multiple times, knowing that he's listening. Next thing I know, he's walking away back to the Starbucks. My boyfriend gets to me and was going to verbally beat the shit out of him, and of course the coward is nowhere to be found. Needless to say, I'm never going to that area alone ever again.